We often talk about retiring, but our brains were meant for rewiring, people. So, what can we do to protect our greatest asset? No, it's not our home that we're talking about, it's our brain. And today we are diving deep to find out how we can protect this gorgeous thing between our ears. Hello, welcome to Unfiltered, proudly in our prime. I am your co-host, Renee Procenko, and I am joined by my gorgeous partner, Dr. Carolina Billings. And we're very excited to have our midlife wellness and longevity specialist, Victoria Muir-Burcea, with us. And oh, I got so many questions. We need to dive in quick. But before we do that, Victoria, you and I had this conversation last week, and you really made me think. I was scratching my head after that. And that is, your definition of midlife is really different. So can we start with just hearing your ideas of midlife in your definition?
Yeah, I'd really like to change the zeitgeist on this, or the way we talk about it, right? Because often when we think midlife, what do we first think of? 40, right? Over the hill, 40, maybe 50s. And then we go right after 50s into old age. If you're listening, I'm using my finger quotation marks here, but midlife for me is the active years, right? We have up until 18 or 21, however you define childhood. And then we're supposed to go we have these, everything else is really segmented, but midlife to me is the biggest part of our life.
It's the biggest time.
It's the biggest part. I consider midlife your active years all the way up until you really start to slow down. So I think midlife is 35 to 80, right? Because we are also aging younger. We are aging younger, especially those of us in Generation X. And there's a couple reasons why. We are the generation that didn't have social media, didn't have internet, didn't have highly processed foods. There's a lot of things happening for Generation X, those of us that are in midlife right now, and we're aging younger. If you look at who you are now, maybe you're 60, maybe you're 70, maybe you're 50. Do you feel like you're what your parents were when they were 60 or 70, or your grandparents? No, we're actually aging younger, and we need to widen that perspective of what midlife is versus being a senior or old age, because we are living vibrantly and we are thriving for a lot longer. So midlife to me is the biggest part of our life. You've got childhood till 21, and then you've got kind of midlife all the way up till maybe it's 85. And then you start to slow down, right?
Midlife as 85?
Yes, it's a huge
biblical. How can you be midlife at 85?
I bet you can think of some 80-year-olds that are just as capable as 60-year-olds.
Oh, okay. Not right? Chronologically, but system-wise.
Right? So we're aging younger, and we need to acknowledge that. And there's
I don't have that biggest savings account to take
that's the thing, right? If people are retiring at 55, we still have a whole other 40 years of our life after we retire, if we're retiring at 55 or 60. And we're living longer and we're aging younger. And there's a new term being coined by a lot of researchers called SuperAgers. And we're turning into SuperAgers, which means midlife lasts longer. Our active years last longer. And how do we make our brain last longer?
I love it. So how do we make our brain last longer? Can we start with the basics, like food, sleep, movement? Like, can we just cover like longevity 101 before we dive into some really funky stuff?
Yeah, I want to give you one, and I actually have a slide for this one. It shows the brain and a dehydrated brain, if you want to put that up, Carolina. My biggest tip for brain health.
Wait, I got to take a glass of water for this.
She knew it was coming.
She's been good today. Usually it's not water.
It's water, right? So here's the thing. If you're ever feeling off, brain foggy, off, anything, always check to make sure you're hydrated. And we're told constantly to be hydrated for our muscles and for our joints. The thing is, even if your brain is dehydrated by 1%, you start to lose cognitive function. And why is that? That's because the brain is an electrical organ. and we need water to conduct electricity. It's as simple as that. So the brain needs water to ensure efficient electrical and chemical actions between the brain, the nervous system, and your sensory organs. So the first thing you should always do is drink some water. So if you're listening to this and you're not driving, drink some water right now.
And you're driving, as long as it's water. But I have a question.
Sure.
We're with you 100%. But you know, the myth or the whatever urban legend that it has to be 8 glasses of water a day, that is actually quite misguided. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
How much water you need is actually based on your size. Okay. So some smaller women might only need 6 cups of water a day, and some men might need 10. So there's a real drive to, always have your 2 liters of water a day. If you are peeing so much that it's disrupting your life, right? We want to have a good quality of life as well. And the other thing is, it also depends on how active you are. So for every 15 minutes of high intensity activity, and by that I mean if you're doing an activity where you're sweating, you're dripping sweat, you're sweating a lot, for every 15 minutes where you're dripping sweat, that could literally just be lying on the beach in the summer if it's 40 degrees out too. For every 15 minutes of heavy sweating, you have to add on another cup of water, because you lose about the equivalent of a cup of water of 15 minutes of heavy sweating. So,
and it's weather dependent too.
It's weather dependent, it's body size dependent, and it's activity dependent. And so the best thing is to check in. Am I feeling off, brain foggy, out of balance? Is my mouth dry? Is my skin dry? Are my lips chapped? Does it burn when I go pee? What's the color of my urine? Right?
Actually, the color is a good one. The color is a brilliant one.
Yeah. You can Google, there's really great kind of charts that show you different colors and those sorts of things too. But it's really about, I call it knowledge of knowledge for everything that I talk about. It's really about becoming more self-aware of yourself. The more you know about yourself and your brain and your body and how it works, the more you can set yourself up for success. So again, I call it knowledge of yourself or knowledge of knowledge. And I really believe in educating about the brain, the body, and all these things so that you can check in with yourself.
So if I'm opening up the refrigerator and I then turn to my husband and say, which I often do, why am I here? And then I remember, it's to have a glass of wine. So how is alcohol maybe getting in the way of some of this? And
actually, alcohol dehydrates you. Yeah,
that's right. Alcohol dehydrates you, right? And
there's
a lot out there, right? There was a study that came out, I think 2 years ago, where it said women can only have 1 glass of alcohol a week. And now that study's been debunked.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
So everybody, like every midlife woman was like, what? Right? Like, I cannot
think I have issues with that.
Yeah, it was a big news story that's been debunked. And so it's within reason for yourself. But alcohol not only dehydrates you, it's very, very high in sugar.
Well, and then they went after our coffee and our cappuccino. And then I said, okay, back off.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, come on, people. Seriously. Anyway, well, so this is interesting. And I get it. Food. Well, we didn't talk about food. Is there anything about food? Like, is there like an anti-inflammatory kind of couple of things we should be packing in our diets during the week?
Well, this is really interesting because this is usually the first question that gets asked. So good for you, right? Is anti-inflammatories. That's usually what can I do? Let's talk about going into perimenopause and menopause too, because our brain changes. So a lot of women are really trying to improve their, health through like supplements, food, different health routines. Why isn't my body working the way that it worked when I was 30? Why can't I lose the weight? Why do I feel off? Why do, right? And so
why?
Why? Tell us. And I have to preface this by saying always talk to your doctor or a naturopath before as well. There's a few actually really exciting studies that have been happening. One of them is around creatine, and creatine in particular to the perimenopause brain and the menopause brain and sources of energy. Can I get into the brain a little bit?
Please do.
Okay.
Please,
Okay.
absolutely.
So I want to explain what happens to our brain after the age of 40 for women in particular. Okay. So our brain is designed to conserve energy. That's its job. The brain is the organ that burns the most amount of calories in your whole body. Okay. But its job is to make us feel safe. And it feels safe when we don't burn energy, because we're still cave people. Yeah. Our brain thinks that anytime we burn energy, it's because we're running away from a saber-toothed tiger. Right? A saber-toothed tiger. Now, what happens
around free, Mark?
Right. So we automatically go into fight, flight, or freeze. And our brain doesn't want to change anything. That doesn't just mean moving your body. That means your thought patterns, your behavior patterns, your habits. Anytime you go, oh, I want to change something. I want to change my habit around this, or I want to stop talking to myself in a negative way. There's literally a neuron in your brain that's connected to another one that's making you have those thoughts. So the brain goes, well, I don't want to change those thoughts because it means I have to grow new neurons. I have to create new pathways. So that's the brain's number one job. But what happens when we hit perimenopause? And this is for the rest of our lives. This is the other thing people don't understand. So once I hit menopause, it's done and I go back to how I was before. It's just a stage in my life. No. This is the rest of your lives. And it's a big chunk of your life, right? Midlife, right? Or it's the next 60 years of your life. The brain uses estrogen as a source of energy.
For women, yes.
For women, yeah. And estrogen in our brain promotes synapse formation, those neurons to talk to each other, blood flow to the brain. It enhances neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. And when we start to have a decrease in that estrogen, our brain thinks, I need to have more receptors. So it reacts by growing more receptors for estrogen, even though we're not getting more estrogen. So there's a picture up on the screen that you can kind of see a before menopause and an after menopause of what happens. Now, the other thing that happens during this time is something really cool. It's called neural pruning. And our brain starts to prune out neural pathways so that it goes, oh, these aren't important anymore. So have you ever heard people talking? They're like, when I hit 40 and 50, I gained a little bit of confidence in other ways. I just started thinking this isn't important. I gained different perspectives. That's physiologically your brain actually doing that for you, which is really, really cool. And the other thing is, I don't want you to think about this as like brain fog. I'm going to have brain fog for the rest of my life, or forgetfulness. It's actually really powerful because your brain is creating space. And there are things you can do to grow new brain cells, because the brain is actually really plastic at this time too. So there's a myth out there that our brains stop being plastic. We stop being able to grow brain cells after the age of 12. That's old science. That's been debunked. Okay.
Yes. Also, sorry, I read, because it's directly to what you're speaking about. I read a study that said that if you have inflammation in your stomach, right, you have inflammation in your brain and you have inflammation in your heart. So would you say that brain fog is one of the signs of inflammation?
Well, brain fog could be signs of a bunch of different things, but where that study came from was, have you heard the term your second brain or your gut brain? There's actually more nerve endings in your gut than there are in your brain. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, when our gut's inflamed, we have a nerve called the vagus nerve that connects our brain, wraps around all of our organs all the way down into our gut. And when we're inflamed, the signals can't move as quickly as they want, or we can't do the things our nervous system wants to do. The other thing is that 95% of our serotonin, which is one of our happiness hormones, one of our stress relief hormones, is produced in our gut. Only 5% is produced in our brain. So gut health becomes incredibly important during perimenopause, menopause, and midlife, just in general. And providing the brain with other sources of energy becomes incredibly important. And this goes to your first question, Renee, about food or supplements. There's been some incredible studies done on creatine in the past 10 years on creatine in the female brain. So we all know creatine was bodybuilders were taking it. They take it to increase muscle. And there's never been studies on women and creatine up until recently.
Because women know better than to take steroids.
Well, it's not a steroid. Creatine is something that our body produces on its own. Whenever you work out, your muscles actually produce creatine for your muscles to heal or your muscles to grow. So creatine is a natural substance that we already produce in our own body. Now, when we become depleted in estrogen, creatine is also a source of fuel for your brain. And when we become depleted in estrogen, creatine is one of the things that can give our brain more energy sources. But how the body works is it absorbs creatine into the muscles first, and whatever's left over goes to the brain. So there's been lots of studies about taking a creatine supplement, and the supplement that you take actually becomes a fuel source for your brain. And it can help with these things like brain fog, focus, concentration, forgetfulness. It's pretty incredible. Now, there isn't always a one pill fixes everything. You also want to be doing things to stimulate your brain. You want to do, I teach something called brain fitness. You want to be doing brain fitness things to stimulate your brain. You want to be doing movement. You want to be doing drinking water, all of the things. But creatine, and that's why it's called a supplement. It's not a magic pill, but creatine.
That's what I meant by steroids. There's supplement side of things.
Other healthy things that that you're trying to do. So it's a big time of change. So you might as well start changing some other things along the way. Up until this point, have you been doing brain fitness exercises? Have you been, right? This is a great and powerful time, again, because our brain is neural pruning to start reprogramming our brain. It's actually a really, really powerful time. And the thing is that we shame ourselves, we guilt ourselves, we don't take the time to have the knowledge of what the hormones are doing.
Well, people are intimidated too, right? Because at a time, and this is a very important point, that we have been conditioned to think, okay, midlife, you're looking at retirement, you're looking at checking out, slowing down, when really is as you mentioned, a powerful time to create a new system, to rewire, re-engage your systems. And we face these actually in some of the work that we do, Renee and I, that a lot of people are reluctant to change, especially nowadays with technology. Just the way we do things is like, oh, we're not into that. We only write checks. We don't like to do.
Oh, don't even get me started on paper checks.
But exactly, the more that you continue on the well-worn path, right, the more in autopilot you're going.
That's
and
right.
the less your brain continues, to be optimized.
That's
and
right.
Talking about that. Sorry, Carolina, you and I on a previous episode talked about having that student mindset, no matter what we're doing, right? Like that curiosity and having that sense of wonder in learning. So, Victoria, you mentioned brain fitness, right? And we're going to link below to some things that Victoria has for us later. Talk to us about loneliness and isolation, because some people will think, well, yeah, I do my crossword puzzles, girls, I'm on it, right? But I remember I used to talk about this in one of my workshops, a study that I read that loneliness and isolation is equivalent to smoking 13 cigarettes a day. Like it is seriously bad for us. Yeah. So what can you add to that with respect to brain fitness and getting out of our comfort zone and socializing or pushing those boundaries a bit?
Try new things. Yeah.
Let me connect this to super aging, because this is interesting. So there's a couple things that I call the silver lining of the pandemic. And one of them is we're actually acknowledging how important social stimulation is, intellectual stimulation, and connection to nature. We used to define wellness before the pandemic, that wellness triangle we used to see that was like mind, body, spirit. And that's actually turned into the wellness wheel now that the World Health Organization is recognizing too. And it is saying you need to hit on all aspects of wellness to feel wholly well, WHOLE. And some of the new things that have been added to that are social, intellectual, environmental, financial, as well as our physical, which in there's your fitness and nutrition. But we always go to fitness and nutrition first. But we need to acknowledge that they are all equally important to our health. And the brain, we are designed as human beings. We are designed to live with other human beings. And we live in a world right now where we could probably live in our apartment and only have contact with like 3 people: our landlord, the person that delivers our groceries, and ourselves, honestly, right?
It's true.
So, but we need to have contact for our brain to be stimulated, for neurons to grow, for the plasticity of our brain and our body. When I talk about our brain, I'm talking about your whole neurological system too. It's not just what's going on in your head. It's what's the whole nervous system that's connected. We used to need 100 people to survive, 100 connections of people to survive. And now the way we live, we only need 1 or 2. Potentially, we could survive, but that's not thriving with 1 or 2. But the reality is that our brains haven't caught up to the technology. If I'm pressing buttons and I'm typing on a screen, or I'm doing my crosswords on a screen instead of pen to paper, my brain actually doesn't get the full stimulation out of that, because my brain's like, oh, this is fun, I'm pushing buttons. But it doesn't know that the buttons on the keyboard represent the letter W or the letter D. So what we're learning doesn't actually go into our long-term memory. It doesn't actually become long-term for us and stimulate our brain when we're doing screen time. We need interaction with other human beings to get that. And we need interaction in analog ways, pen to paper interaction. Do your crossword pen to paper. And this goes into, I'm going to teach you guys the 6 M's of brain fitness. This is something that I teach. Okay. And so, most of our go-tos, right, when we think, oh, I'm exercising my brain, would be crosswords, Sudoku, puzzles, right? Anything else like first come to mind when you're thinking about, oh, this is good for my brain? And these were the kind of go-tos. And there's actually been quite a few studies that have said, you know, these types of things, yes, they exercise your brain, but they only exercise one part of your brain. They make you good at vocabulary, or they make you good at math. But in order to have longevity, in order to be a SuperAger, we want our brain to work in harmony. We want to stimulate all parts of the brains, not as individual parts, but we want them to work together in harmony. And so brain fitness is a program that I teach that was designed by neuropsychologists and neuroscientists, and based on studies. And the studies say, in order for us to get our brain working in harmony, in order for us to truly exercise our brain and have a whole brain experience, when we're exercising our brain, we need to have at least 3 of the 6 M's. Okay, you ready? Write them down if you want. Here we go.
Okay, can I guess one?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Do your puzzle with your opposite hand.
Yes. So we need to challenge. So here is the 6 F's. So the first one is movement. Mm-hmm. We need to actually move our body. So if we're doing those brain training apps on our phone, we're not actually moving our body. Okay. The second one is mouth. We need to speak out loud. The mouth has a direct connection to your brain. Think about when you were a kid and you were learning to read. How did you learn how to read?
Out loud.
Out loud. Mm-hmm. Right? Or even when you're watching a child who's trying to learn something and maybe they're reading their first novel or something, their mouth is still moving, even though they're not making the sound. Right?
I'm so glad you mentioned this, because I know people, and maybe we all do, who live alone, who don't talk to, and they That's say right. this, I haven't spoken a word in a couple of days.
Oh, good word.
Yeah, and that doesn't
such a foreign concept. Yeah. But speaking to your, yes, I've read, and we'll continue with the M's.
Yeah.
But yes, there's been a lot of studies that speaking to yourself has great health benefits.
Yeah,
I want to tell my husband that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm a big believer in talking to your plants, talking to your pets, talking to yourself, talking to the wall, right? It stimulates your brain. There's a direct connection. So, okay. So what did I say? We've got movement, mouth, music, and rhythm.
Yeah.
The importance of music and rhythm. Think about when you were learning as a kid, and we stopped doing these types of learning after maybe the age 10, 11, 12, but the brain still learns in the same way as adults in our midlife, right? So think about like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's how you learned your ABCs, because it was attached to a song. Mm-hmm. So music and rhythm is really important, whether you're moving your body rhythmically or singing or there's some kind of music involved. That's the third M, incredibly important. Then we've got Mind is kind of what you said, Renee. It's problem solving. So if I have to write with my non-dominant hand, my brain then goes, I have to find a solution to this. I have to problem solve this. Okay. So mind means problem solving. Then this is a big one. We've got meaning. And this is one that's been left out for years and years and years because we decided to separate the brain and the mind, right? Everything about the brain is rational. Everything about the mind is
emotional,
right? So meaning means, that's right. Meaning means emotion. Mm-hmm. We need to have emotional connection when we're learning. So there is no difference between the mind and the brain, everybody. They're the same thing. They are the same thing. There's no difference between the mind and the brain. So having an emotional connection, when you remember something, when it's called memory recall, when you pull forth a memory, there is always an emotion attached to that memory when you pull it forth. And
that's why music is so powerful.
That's right. Smells, music. But for years, we haven't considered the power of emotion when it comes to memory and when it comes to brain health. So meaning. So the last M is the midline. And the midline is literally the middle of your body. If you put a line right through the center of your forehead, down your nose, the middle of your mouth, all the way down. Anytime we cross the midline with movement, we're connecting both sides of the brain because the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body and the right side controls the left side. Now, anytime we cross the midline, the other way we can do midline exercises, if we have one side of the body doing something different than the other, it's called bilateral focus swapping. That also makes the brain work as a whole. So do you remember the trick when you were a kid, pat your head and rub your belly?
That's hard.
Right? That's hard because one side of your body is doing something different than the other side of your body. And you get really good with your right hand on top and your left hand. Now switch. Can you pat your head with your left hand and rub with your right? This is really encouraging the brain to work in harmony with your entire nervous system and your, or yeah, you start rubbing your head and patting your belly instead of the other way around, right? So these, that's an example of a brain fitness exercise. So again, start thinking about things in your life that have at least 3 of those things. And brain fitness exercises that I teach have a minimum of 3 of those things. And here's the really amazing thing. 90 seconds. That's all it takes to feel a difference, right? You can do these exercises for 60 seconds to 90 seconds, and there will be an immediate response. So you can be your own neuroplastician if you learn how to do it in the right way.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I want to talk about self-talk for a quick sec too, because
I caught myself a few minutes ago, and but I didn't say anything, but I did inside my head, which is where self-talk lives. When I said, "Oh, that's hard," and immediately I canceled that internally, but I didn't share the cancel with you guys.
I want you to try something. Close your eyes for me, and say to yourself, "I'm exhausted."
Out loud or quietly?
Say to yourself or out loud, I'm exhausted.
I'm
exhausted.
exhausted.
How do you feel in your body?
I just had a little flush go through me.
Right? That's how powerful our words are to our brain. That's how powerful our words are to our brain. I'm exhausted. And then you go, oh, wait, I am exhausted.
And your body's always listening.
Your body is always listening, right? So I think I have another slide that says that too, but
actually, that is my favorite one, and I love. So I'm big on choice. Actually, my entire Powerful Women Today movement is the fact that everything that is occurring to you and you're doing is your choice. So if you don't like it, change it, right? And that's what your slide says. Your brain and nervous system are responding perfectly to the signal they are receiving. Change the signal.
That's right. Change the signal. So here's another thing that happens in midlife with that lack of estrogen, which means we start to become depleted in some things like serotonin and dopamine. That doesn't mean that we have to stand for that. There's so many things we can do to increase our serotonin and dopamine and help with these estrogen levels, things like creatine, things like physical activity, things like food. Now, but because there's a lack of serotonin and dopamine being able to absorb it with that lack of estrogen, we start to have real self-doubt, right? So it's kind of this weird thing that happens in midlife. We have the neural pruning and we start to not care about things. We're like, that's not important anymore. And that feels kind of powerful. But then the opposite side of the coin also happens, where we have imposter syndrome, self-doubt, we lose confidence. We lose confidence because our body's gaining weight, and all like there's so many things going on. And one of the things is affirmations. I just want to talk about affirmations. I'm a little bit anti-affirmation. I'm going to tell you why. The way that we were taught to do affirmations, the brain doesn't respond. So there's something called self-verification theory. So if you already have a neurological pathway from your childhood or from some time in your life that says, I'm not strong enough, and then you start saying to yourself, I am strong, because that's how we've been taught to do affirmations. I am something. Say it to yourself 100 times a day and your brain will magically change. That's not actually how it works. Because what happens is our brain fights back. Mm-hmm. So if you say to yourself, I am strong, and then you hear a second voice in your head that goes, no, you're not. No, you're not. Right? And then you go, yes, I am.
A party happening inside my head. Yes. Right?
So, and this is totally normal. I want to say, to have many voices inside your head, everybody. Totally normal. So we need to create choice. And the better way to do affirmations is you need to word it in a way that your brain isn't going to fight back. So instead of saying, I am strong, you can say, I am choosing to believe that I have strength today. And your brain's not going to go, no, you're not, because you're saying to your brain, I'm choosing to believe this. And if you hear a second voice that goes, that's unbelievable, then you change it to, I am in the process of believing this, whatever it is. That is the better way to talk to yourself, to help yourself through these changes of self-doubt, imposter syndrome, all these things that are happening in midlife. Now,
we are so going to have you back. Let me, I want to touch on one thing, because we're like over time, but yes, that's okay. It's, it's always when you want to stay, that is the most meaningful, right? You mentioned on your slide, wonder words.
Yes. So the wonder words, again, are words that have been studied by psychiatrists, neuroscientists for English speaking. I only know the English speaking ones, but I'm sure there's a set of words for all languages. Wonder words are words that the brain, you will have an immediate reaction to, an immediate positive reaction. And I actually teach this in my Reveal, Release, Reprogram mini course, which I'm going to give you the link to. So if anybody's interested in learning more about this and learning more about how to talk to yourself and how to let go of these thoughts, it's very helpful. But the wonder words in the English language, I'll give you a couple of them. They have been shown to immediately motivate us. So my favorite wonder word is easily. So let's say you're sitting on the couch at nighttime and you like to wake up to a clean kitchen and the dishwasher just went off, but it's late at night and you want to go to bed. And you're like, oh, I don't want to get up and unload the dishwasher. I just want to go to bed. Or you say to yourself, I can easily get up and unload the dishwasher and then I can go to bed. As soon as you use the word easily, just like when I had you close your eyes and you say to yourself, I'm exhausted, you felt it in your body. As soon as you use the word easily, your brain goes, yep, that's easy. Another one is naturally. Naturally is another one. I can easily and naturally do this. So often people think the wonder words are things like unlimited, potential, like all of these kind of bigger words, but they're actually really, really simple words that we can use. So there's actually 10 of them. Those are my two favorite. Before and after work, before I was this and now I can do this. Really,
we're actually going to put your contact and invite people. You got to work for it, people. Work for it.
I'm not going to tell you all of them. I'm not going to tell you all of them.
It will mean more when you activate it.
That's right.
Victoria, this has been fabulous. I'm a researcher and a eternal student. So there's very seldom by now things that I come across that I have not heard before. And I've been taking notes like crazy because I'm hearing things for the first time being presented in this manner. So you are fabulous. And I personally would like to welcome you to our subject matter expert team, part of PWT Prime Living, but also all of the ecosystems that come with PWT Global. So we are going to be seeing a lot more of you. If everybody please connect with Victoria, we're going to put all her connection links, check our magazines, check our websites, join, subscribe to our magazines, subscribe to our YouTube channels, and we're going to put all the ways that you can meet fabulous Victoria. This has been incredible, and it's just the beginning of an extremely powerful conversation. And if you want to know the remaining 8 words, you're going to have to connect. So thank you so much, everyone. Until next time.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Bye. What a pleasure.